First of all, Mazel Tov, Walter and Esty.
Yeah.
What wonderful news. What
Good.
wonderful news.
Okay.
Let me get my Gemara 1 second. Where is my...
Sixty-five.
Samechei Amid Aleph, Yoma. Hakol Moedim, everybody agrees. She'im niskaper b'she'ein avuda. You have a case where a person needed to bring a korban chatas, but he lost it. And he identified another animal, and he was magdish a second animal. And then he found the first animal. So he has both animals. And he decides to use the chatas that had not been lost, the replacement one. So if he's miskaper with that one, avuda mesa, the lost chatas that was found again, that's put to death. The Gemara says, though, El Rav, Havale kemafresh shtei chatos lachrayos. Rav would view this as a case where he designated two animals at the same time. One of them was like as a guarantee, an achrayos. In case he lost it, he would have another one. And in that case, Amar Rav Oshaya, if you're miskaper with one of those animals, the second one doesn't have to be put to death. It would be put out to pasture until it gets a mum, and then you redeem it. So Kivan Domer Rava Rav Savrlok Rab Yoisi. Since Rava has made a statement that Rav holds like Rav Yoisi, that what? The Amar Mitzvah Barishon. Remember, we were dealing with this question. Which sa'ir do you offer? And Rabbi Yossi is of the opinion that the first one always takes precedence. So me'ikara kemafresh li'ibudami. So similar when you're mafresh these two goats, it's the same thing. It's like as if you were mafresh two animals lachrayas, and the other animal shouldn't necessarily be put to death. So Tanan, so what did we learn in our Mishnah? Rabbi Yehuda Omer Tamus. Rabbi Yehuda said the second one is put to death. So Bishmal Rabbi Yochanan, the Amar Sheni Shebezugrushin Yireh, that the second goat of the first pair is put to pasture. But Rabbi Yehuda Yamus and Rabbi Yehuda disagrees and says it's put to death. Miskaper basheni shebezug sheni. So he therefore offers the second goat of the second pair. Elo l'Rav to Omar sheni shebezug sheni yira. Rav held that the second goat is put to pasture, not put to death. Rabbi Yehuda Yamus, Rabbi Yehuda b'may miskaper. In that situation, he'd be putting both goats to death. So, me savris Rabbi Yehuda sheni shebezug sheni koi. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold that we're talking about the second goat of the second pair. Rabbi Yehuda asheni shebezug rishon koi. It's talking about the second goat of the first pair. And ve'iked kamoisev hachi. And therefore, there are those that ask the Odam Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda has also stated that if you've shechted the goat and there's blood in the cup, Yomus HaMishtaleach, that if you have the goat that's supposed to be sent out Lazazel still alive, but the blood of the goat that was shechted spills, you kill the Mishtalech, and vice versa. Mesa Mishtalech, and you have blood in the coast, you shafech hadam. You got to start again with two new goats. Bishmal Rav, Reisha Pligi B'chatas Tzibur. The original Reisha, the reason why there's a difference is because there's a machlokes whether a public chatas is put to death or not. The seifa pligi b'balei chaim, and the seifa, the reason why there was a machlokes there, if you remember, we had a discussion whether balei chaim or nidchim or not nidchim. Rabbi Yochanan, why did we need this vol? What did that come to teach Rabbi Yochanan? Kasha. Then the Gemara says, "V'odam Rav Yehuda nishbach adam yamusa mishtaleach." That if you've shechted the goat, and the goat that's supposed to be sent out to the midbar is standing there, and the blood in the cup spills, you kill the goat that goes out the mishtalech, and you start again with 2 new goats. So bishma nishbach adam yamusa mishtaleach da'akasi los yavid mitzvosei. You didn't do the mitzvah with the dam because you spilled it, and you haven't done the mitzvah for the Sora Mishtaleach, so you have to start again. Elamesa Mishtaleach, the Gemara is going to point out, what if it's the goat that dies first? Why should you spill the blood? Go ahead and complete the gifting of the blood in the Kodesh Kodoshim, because Ha'isyavid le mitzvosei. You don't have to push the goat off a cliff to kill it. That's lechatchila. But b'di'evet, if it dies, and then you have kapara. Amrit v'Rav Yanai, Omar kro yamod chai lifnei Hashem l'chaper. Ad mosa yezokuk lios chai, ad shas matan damim shel chavero. So we're given a parameter that the goat that is sent out Lazazel has to remain alive at least until the time that the blood of the soil that was shechted is gifted in the Kodesh Kodoshim, in the Eichel, and on the Mizbeach. Then if it dies, let's say on the way to the cliff, or even in the Beis HaMikdash, you would have accomplished the mitzvah. But it's got to stay alive at least until Matan Domim. Tanan Asam, we learn in the Mishnah, B'nai Ha'yisha Shofar Shekleim. You have a city, Tel Aviv, and they gathered Chatzi Machtis HaShekel and gave it to a Shaliach to bring up to Yerushalayim. On the road, Dignavu or Sha'avdu. The Shkolim got stolen or lost. So, Im Nisra Truma, so if the Truma Salishka in the Beis HaMikdash has already been sort of taken and spent on the various things it's spent for, so the shliach nishbor, it's viewed as if the shekels were in the possession of the Beis HaMikdash already. So they have to take a shvuah lagizborin that they were not posheya, negligence in terms of watching it so that it got stolen or lost. And the people who gave the shkolim don't have to give new shkolim. Now, if the truma had not been taken yet, im lab nishbor livnei ha'ir, they have to take a shvuah that they were not posheya to the bnei ha'ir. Ubnei ha'ir shok l'nachreim tachten. And the people in Tel Aviv have to give a second machzis hashekel. Now, nimtzu or shechzir maganovim, let's say the shkolim that got lost were found, or the ganovim returned it. So are they viewed as shkolim or not? Because the people of the city had given a second set of shkolim. So the Gemara says, Elu ve'elu shkolim heim, ve'ein oilen lahen l'shon haba, but they're used for this year. They don't count as if they donated machzis shekel for next year. Rabbi Yehuda says, since they gave twice, the first gifting is for this year, and the second gifting is for next year. Where did Rabbi Yehuda get this? My time, Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Rava, Ksav Rabbi Yehuda, Choyvos shel shana zu, Krevos l'shana haba. That if you have funds that are collected this year to buy certain choivois, those funds could be used to offer korbanos even next year. And therefore, that's why the shkolim moved from this year to next year, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Eisvei Abaya will ask a kash on this. Par v'sor shel Yom Kippurim she'avdu. You have the par of the Kohen Gadol and the so'ir of Yom Kippur that got lost. V'hifrish acherim tachtein. They designated a new par and a new so'ir. V'chein se'irei avodah zarah she'avdu v'hifrish acherim tachtein. Let's say the Klal Yisrael did an Aveira Avodah Zarah, and the Sanhedrin is bringing a so'ir because of a public sin on Avodah Zarah. So they designated a goat, and then it got lost, and they separated a second goat, and then you found the first one, Kulan Yamusu. They're all put to death. That means you were miskaper with the other ones that you had separated, and then you found the original ones. So if there was already kapara, the ones you found again are put to death. Did Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon, Oimrim Yiru Atri Yistavu. They're not put to death. They graze until they get a mum, and then you sell them. Why? There's no concept that a korban that belongs to the tzibur is put to death. We're on Samechei Omid Beis. Amrle. Korbanos tzibur ka'amrit? You can't bring me a raya from a korban tzibur, shiny korbanos tzibur, Kid Rav Tavi Amar Rav Yoshia, Dam Rav Tavi Amar Rav Yoshia, Amar Kra, Zois Oilai Schod Oilas Chodesh Bechodsho, Amra Torah Chadesh Vavili Korban Mitruma Chadasha. That even though there might be certain korbanos, that money that was gathered this year could be spent next year, but korbanei tzibur have a special din that they have to be offered only with the machzis shekel that were donated this year. Fine. Hatinich so'ir, which is clearly a korban tzibur. The problem is par ma ikr lemeimar. The par of the Kohen Gadol is bought with his own private money. It's not a korban tzibur. And for the Gemara, gzeira par otu so'ir. Ein achanami. Me'ikar adin, the par could be spent into next year. The only reason they don't do it is because they're making a gzeira. You'll get mixed up, and you'll think you could do the same thing for the goat, which you can't do because we say the goat is a korban tzibur. Freit the Gemara mishum gzeira yamusu. So just because of a gzeira, you're putting them to death. The ode, another problem. Hadrav tevi amrav yoshia gufa mitzvahi. This halacha of Rav Tevi, where he said that it's chadesh va'aveli korban mitruma chadasha, that's the ikar mitzvah. It's a mitzvah it's mitzvah lachatchila, but if you did it b'di'eved, another way it would work. Amar Amar Shmuel, korbanos tzibur aboin be'echad b'nissen, korban tzibur that is brought on the first day of Nisan, mitzvah lavi min hachadash. You have to bring it from the new Trumas Alishka. However, im hevi min hayoshin yotza ela shechiser mitzvah. So we see very clearly that this din that the korban tzibur has to be bought from the new shkolim is only lechatchila, but the evidence also works. You know why you can't do this, to do a parvis so'ir to the next year? Because the goyrel only works for that year. You cannot do a goy roll and keep the animal around for another year. So the Gemara says, what do you mean? V'naisiv and agril. So do another lottery on the same goat. But then the Gemara says we don't do that because people will think that the goyrel that you did last year goes to the next year, and we know that's not correct. But that's only fine and dandy for this goat. But the par is not a korban sibor, we said. The par is brought from the private asset of the Kohen Gadol. So technically the par could go to the next year. The Gemara says, no, gzeira par atu soyer. We don't allow you to do it with the par, even though technically you could do it, because you might think you could do it for the soyer, and the soyer is a korban sibor, and you can't do it. Right? The Gemara mishum gzeira yamusu. What? Because of the gzeira alone is the reason why we're going to put this animal to death? So the Gemara says no. The gzeira is that since a chatas whose owners have died is put to death, so and because maybe the coin will die this year, so hatinech par. See, a chatas shemesu ba'aleh, which is put to death, that's only a private individual korban. So that works for the par of the Kohen Gadol. But sa'ir, which is a korban sibor, does not fit a chatas shemesu ba'aleh, Michael Memar. Oh, gezeira sa'ir atu par. Really, the sa'ir wouldn't have to do it. We do a gezeira because of the par. Umishum gezeira yamusi, you're going to put the animal to death because of the gezeira? You know what? A year later, the animal is going to be too old. It doesn't fulfill the criteria because it's more than 1 year old. So the Gemara says, Gzeira, it's not a Gzeira. It's not a Gzeira. It's a prohibited animal. You can't use a chatas that's older than a year old. So the Gemara says, that's not a problem. Haloi kasha karebi. The Tanya, Shana Tmima, is moina shloishmas v'shishim v'chamishim yom k'minyan masachama de Rebbe. Rebbe holds that a complete year, which is learned by Bote Arechoma, when you learn about redemption of a house in a walled city, and you have to wait a year, so that's a 365-day year, like the days of the solar calendar. They say no, it's got to be 12 lunar months, which we know is 354 days. So there is a situation where the animal might be 300 and let's say 60 days old, where according to Rebbe, it's still considered in the first year, but it's really the next year, 12 months away. Okay, now we're on Samech Vav.